Hey friends, this is Dr. Heather here coming to you live from Cardin Center for Wellness. I know we're going to talk about calculating macros this week. That is still absolutely on the agenda today, but today we had some questions that we thought were super popular and very important to answer to you. So as I was reading some information this morning, it keeps coming up in all the data, 2020 data, that this shocking, just shocking if you think about that for a minute. So I'm going to share this with you, and then we're going to have Dr. Ralph do a little bit of explaining to you. But no, this is absolutely meant to be shared. So please like, comment, and share on this page. Let us know where you're joining from. We are here in Overland Park, Kansas, which is just a suburb of Kansas City, Kansas. Yes, go Chiefs. But I was reading this and thought it was very just shocking as we practice medicine for over the last 20 some years that 50% of the population already is diabetic or pre-diabetic, and up to 75% of the population is already diagnosed or already is in a state of insulin or metabolic resistance. 75%. That's a large population of people. Just think about if you're a family of 5, how many people that is in your family already. But right now we're going to talk, and we're going to swing a little bit here to my right, and we're going to hear from Dr. Ralph and a little bit more about that theory, because the question is, we just moved the clock forward. We just turned our calendars forward into 2020. Hey, Frank, thanks for joining us today. As we move that clock to 2020, people think, oh my gosh, if I could only go back to last year, if I could only go back 5 years ago, if I only turned back that clock of time. Well, can you do that? Can you actually do that with diet manipulation? Can you actually slow down the aging process? Well, actually, we know through autophagy and some other things, we actually can do that through some metabolic system. Today, we're going to keep it super simple. Again, let us know where you're joining us from. This is actually meant to be shared, meant to be educational. We are not here to diagnose, medically treat, or give you any advice. We want you to always check with your healthcare provider before making any healthcare changes. With that being said, here is our guest today, Dr. Ralph Cardin. Big thumbs, likes, hearts, shout outs. What have you got to share here with us that takes you back to your 8th grade math days?
Algebra, 8th grade algebra. We all love 8th grade algebra, right? Do you remember in 8th grade algebra what's called the Cartesian plane system? If you remember that, you have...
Wait, you're going to love thumbs up on that. So yeah, I don't know if that's Joe saying that he remembers, or that's just, I don't know who's saying that.
So you have an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis, if you remember that. So I like to equate that to the 3-pulley system in our dietary approach and what we try to advise people to do. So if you can look at the chart over here,
and zoom in.
What I would call the z-axis is what we call dietary restriction. Dietary restriction would be removing or eliminating a specific type of food. So in our office, we promote a lot of carbohydrate restriction and or a full-on ketogenic diet. So that
just
would be
processed food, sugars.
So that would be, or sometimes, as Dr. Heather mentioned, it can sometimes just be eliminating processed food, eliminating going through the drive-thru. So it doesn't have to be great big huge sweeping things, but one axis in eating for longevity is controlling what quantity of food that you're quality of food that you're putting in your mouth. Another axis, and what I like to call the y-axis, that's going to be a calorie restriction axis. So that would be the quantity of food that you're restricting. So you're used to eating 3,500 calories, and now you're going to reduce that to 3,000 calories, or whatever the case may be. And then the third axis, in this case, what I call the x-axis, is a time-restricted axis. And so
is that the intermittent fasting?
So a lot of people confuse terms, intermittent fasting versus time-restricted fasting. So technically speaking, most people, if you're doing a 16-8, the geeky scientists call that a time-restricted feeding window. True, as you 20 to do that, that's possible to fall into that category. Quite honestly, most people are doing a 10-hour fast to begin with right now. So they're eating 14 hours and they're fasting for 10. They just don't realize they're fasting. So to go from 14-10 to a 12-12 is pretty easy. And then as you get used to that, then you can start working towards the other numbers. 16-8 is about what I practice. Some days is 17-7 is what I practice as well. So my big advice in eating for longevity is that every single day you need to be manipulating one of those axes, either calories, time, or diet, or quantity or quality of food. Most days, what really people should start to do is they should actually pull on 2 of those pulleys or manipulate 2 of those axes. And so that would be maybe eating less food and eating over less time. eating less carbohydrates and restricting the amount of time that you feed. And then periodically, you should really pull on all three of those. So reduce down calories, reduce down quantity, types of foods, and then calories times diet